Why, thank you all so much for joining us here on CPA Academy. This is Jason Bookman speaking, and I'm happy to welcome you into this webinar from Firm360 and the one and only Jason Blumer on the AI Adoption Advantage, how accounting firms successfully implement change. Before we get into the presentation, I want to check in with all of you in the audience, make sure that everyone can see and hear. If you haven't done so already, please head on over to the Q&A section. Let me know that you can see myself, that you can see Emily, that you can see, well, we've been calling him Jason number one in our webinar warm-ups as we've been starting and getting everything ready. But let us know that you can see us all on screen. Let me know that you can hear my voice, and feel free to let us know what it was that brought you into today's webinar. Maybe you're looking to get some tips and tricks on adopting AI in your firm. Maybe you're looking for some change management tips for implementing change in your firm, for updating new software. Maybe you're here for credit. Whatever it was that brought you into today's webinar, go ahead and let us know over in that Q&A section. It's a great way for us to check in with all of you in the audience, make sure that everyone can see and hear. Thank you all so much to everyone who has chimed in so far. It's great to know that everything is working exactly as we intended. And now that we do know everything's working, we can move into some other aspects of the webinar housekeeping. So let's start with that Q&A section itself. It is there for your questions and constructive comments throughout the webinar. If you do have any questions or constructive comments, please feel free to put those in the Q&A section as they come up. We should have some time to address questions from all of you in the audience as the webinar continues. But if for whatever reason there is not enough time to address your questions specifically, as there are quite a few of you on today's webinar, do not worry, because your questions and constructive comments will be sent over to our presenters at the end of the webinar. So if there are any questions that can be followed up with after the webinar is over, our presenters will be able to touch base after the webinar concludes. Additionally, I should note that the Q&A section is there for anybody having any technical troubles throughout the webinar. If you are having trouble seeing or hearing, let us know in the Q&A and we will help out as quickly as we are able. One additional note about audience interaction is that the chat panel for this webinar is purposefully disabled. As with all CPA Academy webinars, the only place that you will be able to direct your questions or comments is in the Q&A section. Now that we have addressed the Q&A section, we can move into how credit works for this webinar. I know a lot of you are here for credit, and this webinar does qualify for 1 CPE credit. And to earn that CPE credit, you need to do 2 things. You need to stay logged in for at least 50 minutes of attendance time, and you need to respond to at least 3 of the 5 polls that will be made available throughout the webinar. When the polls are announced, the poll will be available to respond to on your screen, and all you need to do to respond to the poll is click or tap the response that is best suited to your choice, and then hit the submit button to confirm that response. Again, when the poll is available to answer, hit the button corresponding with your answer, hit submit to confirm that answer, and that is how you respond to those polls. And once again, to earn that full credit, you need at least 50 minutes of attendance time and at least 3 of the 5 polls answered. But we, of course, do recommend that you answer all of the polls, regardless of whether it will count towards your credit or not, because we always love to know what you think in response to those polls. The CPE credit for qualifying attendees will be issued by our team here at CPA Academy a little later on today, and will be available in your CPA Academy accounts within about 24 hours or 1 business day, and that will also be accompanied by the webinar handouts. The handouts are newly updated and are available over in the handouts section of the webinar interface and in your CPA Academy accounts. If you did previously download the handouts in the lead up to today's webinar, we do recommend re-downloading the updated handouts, which again are available over in the handouts section of the webinar interface and in your CPA Academy accounts. And we do have quite a lot to get to today, so I am happy to step out of the way and turn things first over to Emily for our beginning of our presentation. So Emily, thank you so much for being here. The floor is yours, and let's get started.
Thanks so much for having me. So I wanted to start off by welcoming everyone to this webinar and to tell you a little bit about Firm360. So first off, I'm Emily Maxie. I'm Chief Growth Officer at Firm360. And so before we dive in with Jason, just a little bit about Firm360. Today is all about the AI advantage, how the smartest firms are using technology to do more of the work that matters and less of the work that is frankly kind of draining. And that's a conversation really close to our hearts because it's the exact problem Firm360 was built to solve. AI is only as good as the foundation it runs on. And if your workflow lives in one tool, your time tracking in another, your client documents scattered across email and 3 different folders, AI can't reach its full potential. The magic really happens when your firm's data, your daily work, all live in one cohesive place. And that's Firm360. So we were built for accountants by accountants to bring 3 things together in a single platform: your firm health, your client experience, and the work that your team does every day. So you can see how your firm is really performing, give clients a clean, modern way to collaborate with your firm, and manage every engagement and deadline in one connected workflow. When everything lives in one place, you're not just more organized, you're ready to put AI to work on top of a foundation that's actually built for it. So that's the advantage we want every firm to have. That's a little bit about us. And now let's get to the good stuff. Jason, take it away from here.
Very cool, Emily. Thank you for having me. I'm really excited to talk through this. We're going to talk a lot about AI. So a lot of you in the notes, you do want to know about AI. And we're also going to talk about change management too. So putting things like AI into a firm, or putting things like a project management system, like Firm360, which is a very robust system, into a firm takes a lot of time. So those are the things we're going to talk about. So really quick, here's the agenda. Why this is hard, why it's hard to actually implement these things. There's a lot of, it's the humans. I'm going to give you, I'll give you a hint. It's the people. That's what makes this hard. And then why implementation fails. We've got a little bit of research in there on number 2, but what we really want to get to is number 3. And that's the meat of this, how to get it right. We're actually going to lay out a plan and why that works. And then talk about some cool things with Firm360 and Claude, my favorite tool. Me and Claude are besties, as they say on my team. So I love Claude. We're going to talk a little bit about that. So why am I talking about change management? Well, I've been running my firm for almost 25 years and been running a consultancy called Thrival for 15 years, where we teach mastermind groups. And then me and my partner, Julie, we do a lot of firm consulting. So really turnaround work with firms, kind of implementing structure and change. Also wrote a book, Scale with Purpose. So this is how you scale and grow a services firm, like an accounting firm. So I've been in the profession, very deeply embedded for a long time. So some of the things you're going to hear are things that I just know through consulting. And of course, all the mistakes I've made in running my own firm, right? That's how we learn. And so we're going to dive into, how AI and project management applies to all of this. And of course, the first point is, why is this hard? And it's really the human psychology. And just to, we know as consultants, when we approach a firm, a lot of times they're saying, what I want you to do is fix my firm, right? There's broken things. And what we know as consultants, a lot of times the reason consultants can be valuable, third-party consultants, is we bring a certain pacing to the change, which means a lot of times we're slowing people down. So when we talk to firm owners, and of course you all might feel this, you're ready to put AI in, or you're ready to switch to a new system like Firm360, and you'll try to do it, in a couple weeks, or you'll say, next month, I got to get this rolling. And as consultants, we know to really slow people down. Because what you're always doing with AI or implementing a tool like Firm360 is you're pushing it through a whole group of people. And change for humans is very hard. It's hard for you. It's hard for me. And it's empathetic for you to know that it's hard for your team too. And it's hard for your client base. So not going slow on purpose, but going at the right pace. This is how you do it. It's how you win implementing these important things. AI is one of those, or a Firm360, tool is one of those things that you have to do in a slower way. It's very frustrating for firm owners to go slow, but as consultants, what we want is we want to be successful. That's what we're trying to do. We're trying not to, halfway walk into a project management system like Firm360. We're trying to do it in a way that it'll be implemented. It changes the firm. It changes our service. It helps, put some accountability into the team. Those are the things we're going for. So just remember, the pacing's going to kind of be sorted all through this webinar. That's what really is going to allow you to be successful. So what you're going to hear me talk about in this webinar, and I hope you'll shoot me some questions, any kind of questions on firm growth, firm change, human psychology, AI, Firm360, any of this. Of course, Emily and the team may answer a lot of the Firm360 specific questions, but I love to talk about this stuff. It's really important. Here's one thing we hear, and again, we coach firm owners, we consult with firms. We have mastermind programs where we meet with firms all over Canada and the US every single month. We coach them, we know them really well. So I hear a lot about how firms are doing, how they're feeling, how they feel about AI. And this is a very common thing. We all feel behind. And that is real, that is real common. And the way we like to respond to that is that you're not behind. There's a lot of research actually that proves that out. Even economists we've studied have said that what we hear from the news and the media is what makes us think we're behind. But a lot of the AI media and things like that is coming from these AI companies, right? OpenAI, Anthropic, Google, Microsoft. They have to push out a lot of thought related to AI. But I just want to say, you're not behind. I know you feel behind. We're all learning our way through this. Some of you are further ahead than others. But we feel behind because AI adoption is really happening really fast. And just really a quick story. I remember when firms went through the cloud adoption. And that blew everybody's mind. We're like, oh my God, the cloud's going to take our job away. I remember getting my first computer on my desk. I was like, I got a computer. I'm the man. I remember that, which is really weird. It means I'm old. And then when I ran into the cloud, I'm like, yeah, let's dive in. This is going to be awesome. And some people really push back against that. And then we started, as a firm, we tried to lead through that digital adoption, kind of moving into the cloud. And what we found are products that were being introduced into the market where we would bring those to our clients. We would introduce these brand new products to our clients and go, have you heard of this tool? And they're like, no, we haven't. And so we were kind of cutting edge as a firm. Now, what we can't do is we're not able to do that with AI, right? Because AI adoption has reached the consumer very directly. So we're not going, hey, client, have you heard of Claude or ChatGPT? Right. We're not introducing that. So this gives us a sense that everybody is very aware. And so what we're feeling as firms is really our consumer, the client we serve, they're pushing us a little bit into using this tool. So we're hearing a lot of news. The clients, are completely building dashboards in Claude, whereas we used to build dashboards for them. They're building these dashboards. And it's really freaky. It makes us feel like we're behind, but you're not. And just like you'll see through this webinar, the adoption takes a lot. Adopting this tool really well, AI really well, takes a long time. And we're going to give you actually some timelines of how to adopt like a project management system. It's going to apply to AI as well. So you'll get the intermix of all of those. So why don't we adopt AI tomorrow then, right? So we feel stuck, and there is a status quo bias. So that's number one. Well, here's three: status quo bias, loss aversion, paradox of choice. There's a little JAM study down here that I'll share with you. But this is true when we're doing consulting with firms. It's always true. A lot of times as consultants, we're pushing a firm owner and leaders through some kind of adoption or change. We're having to, and that's part of our job, is to push them through it, to hold them accountable. And that's because it's always easier to not make a change, right? And we all know that not changing is way easier than changing. Actually, our brains, our prefrontal cortex, it is made to keep things simple, the same, understandable, clear. So when we adopt some unknown future, or we walk into that, or we give some vision statement to our team, like, hey, in 6 months, we're going to adopt a brand new project management system. We're going to be totally in Claude as a firm. That's a very fearful thing. So it's really hard just to push us through this status quo bias, one thing. And then loss of aversion, any kind of change management where we never apply the benefits higher than the risks. A lot of times we're always thinking what could go wrong. And that's from our experience, right? From our experience, we perceive a lot of things that can go wrong because we've experienced a lot of losses. And when we adopt something, when we adopt something that really changes us, it seeks to change our team, it changes how we serve our clients. We're pretty fearful of those kind of things, and we're not thinking about the positive things, that we want to get into. But when we consult with people, we always tell them, you're always managing two risks. And one of them is the risk of doing something, right? The risk of adopting Firm360, starting the process of going through a 6-month journey to implement it properly. What is the risk of that? But there's always a risk of not doing it too. The risk of staying the same sometimes is much higher than you perceive, but these biases keep you from understanding that. So I want to say that if you're not on a digital workflow tool, you are behind already there. You must become digital. Even if you're a virtual firm or you have an office, you must operate digitally. So those are different things, right? Being virtual is not the same thing as being digital. So digital means all of your knowledge, your capture, your work, the accountability is all held within a digital product in the cloud. So you have to move to that. The risks of you staying where you are, especially on a project management side, are very high. Now you really can't operate that way anymore. And then with AI, we're coming to that point where the risk of not adopting AI is going to be bigger than the risk of walking into something you don't know how to adopt. So, but just know, you're not behind. All of us are figuring this out. It's okay to stumble your way through the adoption of AI. It's okay. And so we don't want you to feel fearful about that. The risk of staying the same is a bigger risk than you moving forward. Trust me. And then paradox of choice. This is hard, right? We hear, especially with AI, we're hearing just buckets of news, and it makes us feel like we're behind. And I don't think we are as a profession. I really don't think that yet. But the paradox of choice really just overwhelms us. Like, what do we do? What tool do we pick? What project management system do we pick? And there is this old JAM study where they offered 24 JAM options, and they were trying to sell them. It was actually an behavioral economic study, and 3% purchased one of the options of the jams that they were getting. But what they did is they cut options from 24 down to 6, and then the purchases went up. And so that's what we feel right now. We feel this overwhelm of the paradox of choice when we're trying to figure out what we're doing. And again, just some quick points of some study that we've gone through. Firms know the answer, they're still not moving. So we're seeing 88% of accounting firms say technology positively impacts efficiency, which is what a workflow system is meant to do. It's meant to help your team be more efficient and increase client service, right? That's what we're trying to do. 85% believe failing to adopt will make the firm less competitive. These are high numbers. 89% who use automation say it makes them more productive. But the bottom bar is what really sets this. And yet 38% cite costs, right? Cost prohibits them from making a change. And many cite inertia, right? They just can't get going. They can't move this process to adopt this. So that's one takeaway. Human psychology is the reason why AI adoption or project management is difficult. It is the human psychology. And actually, as an empathetic leader, you should consider that. What we don't want to do is push tools into the face of our team or our clients. We want to walk them through it in a way that helps them feel comfortable, helps them embrace it, and understand how to use it. That is the way you push these tools into a team if you want them to be successful. So we're number 2. Again, it's never the software, right?
Hey, Jason?
Yes, sir. You want to do a poll?
Yes, please.
Do it. Thank you, sir. Well,
All right.
Jason's going to have to remind me about polls as we go through this, or I'm just going to keep talking. So thank you, Jason.
No problem. We do want to make sure that we have time for all of the polls. So
Awesome.
Poll number 1 of 5 is currently open. Please go ahead, get your responses to this poll. We will close the poll in the background after about a minute when it's appropriate to do so. So Jason and Emily, I'll turn it back to you to continue presenting. And again, we will close the poll in the background.
Awesome. Thank you, Jason, for helping me with those polls. I appreciate it. So some more quick studies that we've gone through. So the numbers don't get better the closer you look, but 45% of large IT projects run over budget. That's probably because we're not assessing appropriately how long it's supposed to take. I would say a lot of what drives that is we want to move adoption of these tools into our firms too fast. I think there's much slower than we feel they are, but urgency drives us to dump a project management system into our firm or to dump AI in, and they have to go a little bit slower because of the human's propensity to not adopt those things. 97% of accounting firms say they use their current technology ineffectively. We probably all do that. And then the failure rate, 60-75% of technology implementations fail. So it's not technology. Technology is not the problem, right? So when we have when we find a good tool like Firm360 and we try to put it in place and we go, this is not what I thought. A lot of that is the process by which we assessed it, how we rolled it out. So I'm going to try to keep saying, I want you to go a little bit slower than you probably feel you need to go. Brandon Gray, founder of Firm360, he says there's a huge change management component to a successful adoption. Of course, he's experienced that in his own firm and with the tool that he created. And without everyone buying in, it's going to be a big uphill struggle. Team buy-in is a real particular phrase. There's a way we have to work through buy-in from the team. On our leadership team, sometimes we ask, actually, I asked it with one of my leaders this morning. I said, are we telling them or are we asking them? And as leaders, that's a real important differentiation. So as leaders, what we have to do is decide. That's the things we don't ask about. We are going to implement Firm360 into our firm. We are going to roll Claude into our firm. That is our choice. And you can probably hear Claude is my choice. So these are the things we have to decide. But as we do it, we seek input. We do ask input from the team. Not, do you want to use the product? That decision's been made, right? Because as leaders, we give the vision. What we do is we get buy-in by asking for feedback. What worries do you have? What could we adopt that we're not thinking about? These are the things we need input, from our client-facing team. But there's some things we don't ask about, like the adoption and the decision to put a tool in that we should be putting in. Okay, we want to talk about how to get this right. Emily, I want to make sure I'm doing good on time, I think. Are there any thoughts you have up to this point or any questions? I know we'll probably take questions at the end, or should I just keep trucking?
Yeah, I thought that the answer to the poll was really interesting.
Cool.
So the majority of people are actively using it at 36%,
Nice.
but there's a couple that are sort of close second and third. Evaluating options but haven't committed is 25%, and then
Nice.
no, we need to move but haven't started, 23%.
Yeah.
And then 15% are overwhelmed, not sure where to begin. So
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
a decent mix.
Yeah. Well, no, that's interesting. Even from the answers of those polls, see, we don't all have this figured out. So we're all in good company. We're all here trying to figure this out. Even our firm uses Claude, and we're building things in it, and we're trying to figure out how do we use it in a way that really changes how we work. So I love that, Emily, that you pointed it out, that none of us really have this figured out. We're trying to do this together. So awesome. Well, let's talk about how to get this right. We've proven the point with some research. We've talked about humans are the issue. It's not technology. And we're going to talk about a timeline also. And I've given you some hints as a consultant. What we do, we slow people down. We slow people down to methodically go through the process. So you're going to see that in this timeline that we're going to be sharing. And again, these are some meaty slides. The timeline, so important. I'm going to talk through really how we would do that. A champion how you do that, somebody that's not the owner, such a key. There's such a strategy to that it's not the owner. And of course, if you're a very small firm, it may have to be the owner, but we're just going to talk about the benefit of why a champion would not be the owner. And then communication. Communication is huge in change management. Communication is how you get buy-in. It's how people give feedback. It's how people commit once they've been given the chance and the opportunity to share the struggles they're having. Sometimes they just need to share, hey, I'm struggling through this. And the clients, they need to have somebody tell them, here's what we're adopting. We have new portals and we're going to need you to use it. And it's going to be for your best benefit. But please let us know if you have any questions, right? We're always seeking this feedback so that these humans that have to adopt this change, they feel comfortable going through it. All right, this is the path. So you can see, I mean, I would suggest probably 6 to 8 months here in a timeline, the methodical timeline. Like that might feel crazy. And then the compressed timeline, 3 to 5 months. And what you're compressing here in the second one is migration, pilot, and training. And what I'll do is I'll talk about this really from the perspective of implementing a project management system like Firm360. How would you get a tool like that from start to end? And you can already see how long that timeline is. So if you call Firm360 and said, we're stressed, we need to get Firm360 spun up by next month. Don't say that. say, when do you think it might be best? We're in the initial stages of trying to consider how to get the tool into our firm. Let them help you kind of walk through that. They see a lot of firm implementations. That's what they're for. They can help you do that. Now, and I will say this, these are not the only two options, right? Your firm size, the complexity of what you serve, the complexity of the markets that you serve and what you deliver to them, the recurrence of your revenue. Are you project-based? Do you do tax-related work? Or is it a recurrence of bookkeeping or accounting? These kind of things. All of this will change the path and the timing. So when you look at this, don't look at it as two options. Look at it as these are the functions I really think you need to consider. These are the 6 ways you do it. The first thing we like to do is go, when do we have to go live, right? So I want to go all the way to the end of this and hit my go live, and I want to back up from there. That's strategically how you produce initiatives. Strategic initiatives are done from a go live and back. That is a really strategic way to implement things. And so we got to get the go live right. So if you say next week, I'm gonna try to get you to push it out, right? I want it 3 months out. That's really what I want as a minimum. I don't think you can get anything done very well unless you push it at least 3 months out. There's just so much to do. And the reason we would say 6 to 8 months, because we have this discovery. Here's how we do discovery. If I can offload it off of the owner and I have an operational person and I can say, we're thinking about implementing a new project management system, I would want them to bring me comparisons, right? And I say, I've looked at a few. Firm360 is one of them. I need some comparison. I got to know context as I compare. So what the first thing we do is we give a project to somebody that's, again, not the owner. We tried to have it not be the owner in certain size firms. Now, it may be the owner if you're in a smaller firm, and that's fine. But here's why. In our profession, there's these multi-layered reviews we do for our work, right? So we prepare tax returns, somebody reviews the tax returns, or we do a monthly close, somebody reviews that, and then sometimes even somebody delivers that to a client in a live meeting. So we have these layered approaches to how we do things. So when you're giving this work to somebody that's not the owner, you're putting in a review phase, because what you do, and you do know this from the way you do your work, you review things differently than how you prepare things, right? So if you prepare something, you do it in a certain way. When you review something, that's a totally different task. So when we assign the discovery phase, this first box, we say, you come back to me and present to me what you think is the best choice. And so now you've got this person doing that detailed work, and they're having to summarize it and give it to you. And then you can review it and go, I see what you're saying. I need a couple more pieces of information. And you're at this review stage. What you're at is more of a strategic stage. You're looking at it from a higher level going, and you're able to think, how will this affect my team? How will this affect my clients? How will this affect the speed of service, right? That's what we're trying to get to, the efficiency of our team producing services at a higher speed. That's where we make more money, right? Same price, but we're producing the service faster. That's what AI and project management tools offer you. So discovery is such a key, especially when it's somebody else doing it. And then configuration, you set up the system to match how your firm works. Well, you have to learn the system first. You have to really figure out, does it do this? Does it not do this? And I will say this about project management systems. You can't operate without them. You have to be digital and in the cloud, right? That's what I believe. Some of you may be on a server-based system. I would say migrate to a digital one in the cloud. I think that's very important. It's just that's a very modern move to be digital and online. That's very modern. So I would say do that. But also, you're going to have to realize that the tool was built from its own strategic vantage point, right? So it's not going to solve every one of your problems, and it can't. What you do sometimes is you adopt and you bend a little bit to the tool, because what you're trying to do is push something like Firm360 into a whole team. You want everybody working on the same platform. Nobody can opt out of using the tool. That is a big fat no-no. Everybody's going to use it. We're going to go live and do it at this time. We're going to listen to you. We're going to hear you. We're going to get your feedback, but we are using it as of September 1st. That's the date we're going to use this. Those decisions have to be made. But just know, as a firm, you're going to run into things and go, oh, I didn't realize that. Start to learn how to bend into a tool, because getting everything into the tool is going to be the benefit. You can't hold so tightly to your preferences. Sometimes you don't get those. So that's something to watch out for. And here's why I say that. I've seen people implement a tool and pop out after 2 months. Hugely detrimental. That's so detrimental to your team, your service, your client. And if you do it from a preference of, this is just not working the way I thought, you need to really slow down, because now the risks have increased for you to jump out of a tool and jump back into another one. Now you've doubled or tripled the risk of, from even deciding to implement that tool in the first place. So just keep that in mind. The configuration is going to take a little bit of you bending, because remember what you want. You're not trying to get your preferences met. This is a tool for your firm. It's not for you. It's not for the owner. And so you may not get everything you want. You need to build something and give gifts to your team and to your firm that allow it to become the firm it's meant to be. You're hearing me talk a lot about scaling and growth related, information. You have to eventually let this firm become what it's meant to be. So configuration is key. Migration is a huge deal. That's much harder than you anticipate, because in the migration, you may skip data that was in an old system that you're trying to move to this one. A lot of times in this migration and piloting, these kind of buckets here, that's when we'll do dual running, right? We'll run the new system alongside the old one for a period of time. And piloting a lot of times is we're doing it with a particular client or a particular team member. Sometimes we'll single out somebody and we'll say, hey, why don't you run your accounting clients and your tax clients, and can you run them in both systems? That's what we want to see. And just let us know what's missing. These are very common ways to do it. And it sounds like so much work, right? It is, these tools, but here's what we're saying. It's worth the work. So please do the work in the way that will make you successful. Commit to that. It's going to be really important. And then we do training. This is when now we go to the whole team. We go, okay, y'all, we're coming up to our September 1st go live date. So let's all, feel our way through this training. You're not going to get it all done, and that's fine. Make sure the tool is serving the team and it's serving the firm, and it's allowing you to serve more quickly with accountability, the client base that you have. Those are the goals you're going for, not the preference of the owner. That's why we like to get the owner out of this if we can. And then go live. It's a full cut over to that tool. There's a time at which you kind of shut everybody out of the old system, and you kick the crutches out from under them. That's important. There's a stage at which you do have to do that. Now, you don't want to surprise anybody, but you want to say, hey, if we're going to do a go live on September 1, we want you to know the old system's getting cut off on September 15th or 10/1 or whatever. You always have to be communicating a lot of those things to the team so nobody's surprised. And then I won't go through the compress, but you can see we're kind of compressing the migration, pilot, and the training areas when we do that. Now, we did make a note, migration, pilot, and training get dangerously shortened, right? So, which is exactly where adoption breaks, right? The migration, pilot, and training. This is where the team lean in, right? Or start to push back. And if they're going to push back, you want them to push back as early as you can. That's change management. That's what you go through. When you adopt this, don't get frustrated that not everybody just goes, oh my gosh, I'm overjoyed that I have a brand new system I have to adopt. Remember, you're doing it for the firm. Yes, sir. We're ready for another one?
Yes, sir. We are going to go
Let's do
into poll number 2. Pardon for the interruption. We are just going to jump in for a brief moment so that we have time to administer poll number 2. There'll be 3 more polls after this, and we'll be making sure that all 3 are launched with ample time throughout the webinar. So poll 2 is open. Get your responses in. Hit that submit button. We're going to close the poll in the background. And Jason and Emily, back to you.
Thank you, Jason. You're doing a good job interrupting me. Sorry you have to do that. Can y'all tell? Man, I get into this stuff. I'm so excited about this. This is so freaking awesome. Y'all might be going, dude, calm down. This is not that exciting. It is. This stuff changes our life. It really does change our team and our client service. So I think I've given enough warnings on the destination, the paths, and how you go about that. Make sure you ask questions, right? We'll try to tackle some Q&A at the end. If you have any questions on change management, the process, why I'm saying some of the things I'm saying, I'm just giving you some thoughts as to, what we've gone through as consultants and in our own firm. Okay, so remember, there were 3 things we're talking about, and one is that timeline, and this one is the champion, and then we'll get to the third one in a minute. We talked a little bit about this. The champion, if you can help it, is not the owner. That's what we're looking for. I think I gave some scenarios as to why that would be the case. It's really helpful if the owner can step back into more of a strategic view and vantage point of adopting something like AI. They can think about other visionary related issues that they may run into while somebody else is in the guts really of the implementation, right? Because the details in an implementation of Firm360 or even an AI product, there's so much details to consider. If you dive into that bucket of details, sometimes you won't remain at a strategic viewpoint as to, how is this meant to change our service? How is this meant to change our firm? How does it change our positioning, right? That's a marketing term. How do we go to market? How do we say, hey, we're an AI forward firm? How do we do that? We're working through that right now in our firm, and you have to have a strategic vantage point to do it. So that's why we offload this to a champion. And there's a lot of great practical reasons. They own the timeline. They can hold the team accountable, right? There's going to be meetings. Probably there would be weekly or bi-weekly meetings that this champion would run. Operations leaning. So this is an operational person. It's somebody that says, oh, I love checklists and I love to populate my calendar. If you know anybody like that, I'm not like that, but I have had to learn that skill. But if you know anybody like that, they're gonna be really good about ordering these details and moving them through a timeline with the team. First point of answer. This is really key. When you give an implementation like this to an owner, there's so many other things they're doing that implementations really bog down. They really slow down. They stop working when the owner is really the first point of everything. And if you get this champion to start all the way from the beginning, I'll back up, all the way from discovery, what you're doing to that champion is you're filling their head with all of the knowledge and details so that they can do this other function of be that first point of answer. You want them to be the expert. You don't want to be the expert. You actually, as the owner, want to be going to that champion going, and how would we do this? And how would we do this? You want to fill them up with the context for you to be able to ask those questions. They live the training, right? They sit through all the vendor sessions. They really become chummy with the Firm360 team, and they learn so much. and you want them to do that. That champion can really be such a benefit. And sometimes this can even be a promotional thing. You can go, we need an operations person, right? It's probably, and again, from my book, you'll see when we talk about things like span of control, when you get to about 8 to 12 team members in a firm, that's when you probably need a solid full-time, non-revenue generating operational team member, because the movement and the knowledge of all the things running through a firm that size justifies you going ahead and hiring that person, because a lot of that's on the owner's plate. And when you get it into a person that really is, again, non-revenue generating, they are non-client facing. It means they are facing the firm. They're serving the firm, serving the team. And that gives you a lot of power as an owner. So if you know of anybody like that, sometimes bringing them in, even through a promotion, and their first initiative is to implement a tool like this, that's a great way for them to learn. So, they live through this. Then find the early adopters. When we talked about the timeline, when you start getting into probably migration and piloting, you want to be looking for those early adopters. It's like, hey, can you test this out? Can you try to break it? Can you tell me the things that are not working? And then you also want to surface friction. This is huge, right? And again, this is really a summary of the whole webinar, where we're saying this is a change management thing. There's a lot of human psychology in this. So you want the friction to surface as early as you can. You want to deal with those things, because once you get friction from a team member or a client and you solve that issue with them, or at least they feel heard, and you try your best to answer their questions, then buy-in can happen, right? They can go, you have empathy for what I'm asking. You hear that I'm fearful I'm going to lose my client information. Even hearing that, or even them being heard, surfaces the friction and pushes them closer to buy-in and adoption. And so you want to surface this friction. There's going to be friction anyway. So surface it when you can. You do not want hidden friction. You don't want subversive pushing back and not adopting the tool. And I wonder, Jason, before we dive into this, if you want to knock out another poll while we're at it. I know we have to hit so many.
Sounds good to me. We're going to go ahead and open up poll number 3, which is available for everyone to respond to, and we will close the poll in the background after a little more than a minute. We will have 2 more polls after this in our remaining time. So Jason, back to you.
Cool. I did good. I remembered a poll, y'all. I'm excited for me. Cool. Thank you, Jason. I appreciate that. Okay, here's the third one, right? Communication is key. We talk a lot about this in consulting, that you have to communicate. Communication, and this is really wild. Communication, sometimes from a leader's perspective, doesn't mean you get to say anything you want. So between me and my leaders and my partner, I'll script sometimes the things I need to say, and I'll run it by them. I'll go, is this covering everything? Does it say enough? Sometimes as a leader, we say too much. And sometimes we ask when we should be telling. These kind of things, communication you need help with communication. Is not as easy as just blabbing and saying, here's what we're going to do. So you have to communicate to the team, brief them often. When you say, hey, we're rolling out Firm360, and they don't hear from you for a month, that's not cool. You want to always be giving updates on a weekly basis or a bi-weekly basis, going, hey, we're now in this phase. We're learning. We're now in the choice phase. We've chosen. Here's the go live date. The team will go, hey, you said something. Where is that? Are we doing that now? And what humans have to do is they have to make sense of the world in which they live. So if they hear you say it and then don't hear from you for another month and a half, they're like, I guess, okay, I think we're not doing that. And you're behind the scenes working. So it's not only you doing a lot of stuff, it's you notifying and letting people know what's happening. And I won't go through all of this, but you do have to inform your team. We want to do that before we inform the clients, because you want your team going before your clients ready to answer their questions. You don't want your team to feel stupid when a client goes, hey, what's this portal thing you're making me adopt? And the team go, crap if I know. The owner wanted to do it. Let's not do that to our team. That's not setting them up for success. So we want to resurface all of the issues with our team here, so that when we go to clients, we want to have the team ready. One thing about implementing tools like AI or Firm360 is when you go to market, you never go to market and say, this will make us a better firm. This will make us more efficient. Now, behind the scenes, that's really what you're doing. But when you go market facing, client facing, you're always like, this is better service for you. That's what you message to them. It's why you want to adopt this, right? Because you're asking your clients to go through something too. Get rid of an old portal and adopt this new one, right? And some of them are going to go, I like the other one was fine, right? And it's fine from that client's perspective. It wasn't fine for the firm. The firm needed a new system, a new portal. And so you have to go, this will allow us for everybody to be on the same page, and we're going to really be able to push service better through our team once we're fully adopted. So make sure when you message, it's for the benefit of the client. Okay, before we get into this is exciting. Let's do another poll. Can we do another one?
Sounds good to me. We're going to open up poll number 4. So that is going to be available for everyone to answer right now. Poll 4 is live. We will have one more poll after this in our remaining time. And Jason and Emily, I'll turn it right back to you to continue presenting.
Very cool. Hey, Jason, when do you think we should do the last poll? Is that before Q&A?
I think so. But
Okay.
Emily, whenever you would like to launch the last poll, go ahead and let us know.
Yeah, let's do it between the end and Q&A.
Very cool. Okay. Okay, this is exciting. Claude is super exciting. Claude built this connection called an MCP, Model Context Protocol. It's wild what Claude is allowing. Claude through this MCP, I don't understand all of it, but what it's done, it ties very deeply and directly into tons of products. And the product has to build it out on their side. So I think, Emily, this is a fairly new change that is happening, where this MCP, where Claude has this MCP connection into Firm360. And we're going to see, Emily, when is that new now, or
Yeah.
what's that launch?
Yeah, great question. It launched this week, and
Sweet.
it's a beta for customers, and then we're gonna get a lot of feedback and continue to improve it. And this is just sort of the beginning of some exciting things to come. But it's live.
Very cool. So, and you might think, well, what's the big deal? This is a trip. It really is. So, of course, y'all can tell Claude, from Anthropic is my choice of product. I've been in Claude for probably a couple years. So I'm a power user, and what it does, and of course, a lot of you are using AI tool too. We're kind of all in that generative stage, right? Where it generates a lot of thought and ideas. The agentic stage is going to be next. This is starting to lead us into the agentic stages. But basically what Claude becomes with this MCP connection is it is so deeply embedded into Firm360. It is wild. We're going to start operating with our tools differently, right? So you ask questions now. You say, what's our current WIP across all open engagements? And tell me how much of that was Judy. It's sentient. That's kind of what AI is. It understands human language. So you don't go search Judy, drop down, click off the boxes of her clients. You get to go, hey, Claude, can you tell me just, I don't know, summarize Judy's workload coming up for the next 3 months. It spits it back to you, and it's pulling it all from Firm360. That's crazy. That's mind-blowing. And you don't really know how mind-blowing it is until you're in Claude and you've adopted it with your team and you actually start talking to Firm360 and you start seeing the things you've learned. It's really, really wild. So one thing Firm360 has to do on their side is they have to build out the databases and the servers in a way that it produces and answers those questions and gives access safely to Claude. But asking questions like what clients have invoices overdue more than 60 days. I mean, you don't have to hunt this stuff anymore. What's our realization by partner this quarter? That's bonkers, y'all. That's mind blowing. So I think we're coming to an end, Emily. You probably know a lot more about this than I do. Do you want to share any more things about Claude's push into Firm360?
Yeah. So we were really intentional about choosing to partner with Claude because of a couple of things. One is their focus on security, and the other is just the fact that they are the leader in AI. And I think that's why, Jason, you've become such a power user. So now all of these answers are available directly within Claude. You're able to do some really exciting analysis. And like I mentioned, it's just the beginning. So if you're interested in seeing it, we're going to open a poll. Actually, now is probably a good time to open the poll.
Mm-hmm.
If you're interested in seeing it in action, we'd be more than happy to show you a demo. And yeah, I think after that, I think we're good to move to questions.
Cool. All right. So Jason, you opened that, so we're good on that, right?
Yep, that fifth and final poll is now open. So go ahead and get your responses in as quickly as you are able.
Very cool.
All right. So
Q&A, yeah.
Yeah, questions from the chat. One is about data hygiene and what the importance is of data hygiene when it comes to AI and implementing AI. So I'd love to throw that to you.
Yeah, that's a big question. The root of that question is we're all finding out for AI to do its best work and return the answers to the things we need. We're learning that our tools have to be well ordered. Our portals have to be well ordered. So now more than ever, we can't just dump a lot of stuff into our tools or into our portals or into our databases where we store information. So we have to start really ordering it in a very specific way that we can talk to the tool knowing, because we have to be able to point these tools to the different folders that we want to talk about. That's what you do when you prompt tools like Claude. Even when you're prompting through an MCP to Firm360, you got to go, hey, I want to talk to you about WIP, right? And so it goes, okay, now I know where you're going into. So data hygiene, that comes from better structuring our data in a way that AI can, from a sentient perspective, look at it like a human and return to us the things we want to know. Now, and if we don't have good data hygiene, that is, our data's not ordered, remember, these tools are actually pretty dumb, right? Claude can be pretty stupid. And so it feeds us back hallucinations or wrong conclusions, because it'll make conclusions if you want it to. So the data it's pulling from starts to become way more important the way you structure it than it ever has been before. So that was a big picture question. So I kind of left that a big picture answer. I hope that helps.
Yeah, and just to add on to that from the Firm360 side, we have been really focused on data hygiene when customers join Firm360. We actually have a data migration team and some AI tools to help clean up data so that when it comes into Firm360, it is really clean and reliable. And so that's something that's just becoming even more important than ever with AI.
Awesome.
All right. The next question is about governance. Someone said that they're leading the AI governance committee at their firm and wanted to know if you had any tips for that.
These are big picture questions. So if there's probably a governance committee, it means it's a larger firm, because in smaller firms, probably half of you are going, governance what? But it's so important, right? So when you're leading a governance committee, you're trying to do it, I think, from a strategic perspective, right? Security is always going to be a massive thing that you do. I think we work mostly with firms in the kind of the $5 to $8 to $10 million in revenue. And they typically don't have governance committees when they're adopting things like Firm360 or AI. So what I would do is I would approach it probably from the vantage point of a consultant. I would want to be consulting with that firm to slow them down, to push communication very slowly into the team members. I would want security is probably a massive thing you have to do. I have heard from a lot of larger firms that, of course, they have to choose a product. And then what they also do is they lock down all other products. So that I'm hearing is very common. And that feels weird to us because we want everybody using all of the AIs they can. But the security part to a larger firm means you can't oversight that in a way that you can allow a lot of different things. So on your systems, software technology systems, they are locking things down and choosing one product. But I would just say approach that from a strategic perspective, and use some of the thoughts we've shared in this as a great consultant on that committee. And again, we don't work with the large firms that do a lot of that, but that's probably my best advice, I would say.
Great. That really naturally flows into the next question, which is security is always a concern, and how does it get addressed in Firm 360? So Firm 360 is SOC 2 compliant, and in case you aren't familiar with that, it's a security standard. We go through an audit every year of how we handle our customers' data, how we communicate with each other, which tools we use, and whether or not they're SOC 2 compliant. So very robust security audit. And then when it comes to the Claude connector, Anthropic is also SOC 2 compliant. And your data is never used to train the model. And so those are some things about security in Firm 360. Another question is from a current customer. I know we have a number of current customers on the line, and really excited that you all are here. And that's whether or not this is being rolled out to all Firm 360 customers. It's a beta, and so all you need to do to join the beta is reach out to support@myfirm360.com, and we'll get you set up with that. So yeah.
Nice. Very cool. Yeah. And from the security is huge. And by now, most people are learning you can't use personal accounts in firms. You have to use paid accounts. They're not that expensive. And the higher up, those paid accounts, those teams, and even enterprise accounts in Claude start to become required because, like Emily said, they don't train on your data, which is a huge. These personal accounts do train on your data. So how you're talking to it, it'll pull that into the LLM, the large language model, and seat that in and go, okay, that's just more information for us to know how to answer people. But these paid accounts cut that off, and they don't allow that to be pushed into the firm, which is required for us as firms. We can't have our data being trained on. And so you got to move as high as you can afford to the products. Like Claude would be an enterprise level that would allow you to know that is really secure, and you can feel comfortable with that. So those are good questions. All righty. Anything else?
I don't know. Do we have time for one more, Jason, number 2?
I think we are right out of time. We are coming right up to the top of the hour.
Right.
So Emily and Jason, number 1, if you both have any quick concluding remarks before we go ahead and wrap up, now is the time, and then we can go ahead and close out.
I'm excited. Thank you. That's my wrap up.
Yeah, and I'll just plug in the handouts is an implementation playbook for practice management software. So it walks you through all of the things that Jason talked about today, how to identify a champion, how to structure your timeline, all of those things. And then that's also available on our website. And we'd love to talk to you about Firm 360 and Claude and AI and all the things.
All right, and with that, we are at the end of our time. So I want to first extend a huge thanks to Emily and Jason for presenting today. Thank you both for your informative and in-depth presentation. And of course, thanks to all of you in the audience for your participation and attendance in today's webinar. Some quick end of webinar housekeeping. CPE will be issued by our team here at CPA Academy a little later on today. That will be available in your CPA Academy accounts within about 24 hours or 1 business day. The webinar handouts are also accessible through your CPA Academy accounts for future reference, which includes the information that Emily just referenced about contacting Firm360. And with that, we are at the end of our time. So once again, a huge thanks to Emily and Jason for their presentation, to everyone at Firm360 for bringing today's content to all of you today, and of course to all of you in the audience for your participation and attendance. We hope to see you all on a future webinar and hope you all have a great rest of the day. Take care, everyone.
Take care. Bye-bye.